Welcome to Ripple Effect Connection. I'm your host, Christy Hugic. Our mission is to empower you with valuable insights and actionable strategies that can truly enrich your life. I'm excited to bring you another episode of Coach's Corner. This series opens the door to a treasure trove of wisdom and practical guidance from some of the most influential coaches in their fields. Today, we're branching out, hopping on a plane, and traveling all the way across the pond to the UK for this episode. Meet Hazel Reichberger, one of our former Whole30 clients who discovered the elimination protocol back in 2018. With a newfound focus and awareness about her body and her health, the Whole30 helped her reverse her type 2 diabetes. Hazel's transformative experience with the program also paved the way for her to become the UK's first and only Whole30 Certified Coach. She is now also a thriving IIN health coach. It was very exciting for Debbie Marlowe and I to see one of our clients become a coach and pass along her knowledge to others. That is the ripple effect in action right there. Like all of us, she's constantly learning, evolving, and finding new ways to help others. You're going to learn about her health journey, what holistic healthcare looks like in the UK versus the US, and the latest program she's developing with my good friend Debbie Marlowe to help clients all over the world. This is my Coach's Corner with my good friend Hazel Reichberger. My friend Hazel, it has been way too long for us to catch up. So I'm really glad this is happening for multiple reasons. One, I want to bring your knowledge to the listeners. Two, everything you say, whether it's exactly the same as someone else, always sounds better because you have an accent. And
thank you.
And then three, I just haven't seen you in so long. So it's good to see your face, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Christy. I'm delighted to be here and also delighted to catch up with you. It has been far too long.
It definitely has been. We're all connected on social media. I know we all chit chat there, but it's definitely different having face-to-face interaction, at least through this medium. So I'm going to start with something that, we've talked a lot about in our time and we've talked about with clients. But first, I just want to lay the background that Hazel was a client. Hazel did our groups. Hazel first met Debbie, and then Hazel was a part of our group that Debbie and I did together. So Hazel, you're very familiar with the first question I'm going to ask you, and that is, what is your why? So tell everyone your why.
So my why for getting healthy is that I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes a few years ago. And also I had some thyroid issues. It wasn't enough to show up in my blood work, but I had a slight swelling in the thyroid, and I did have some scans and everything was benign, but it obviously concerned me. And those sort of health issues were my main reasons for looking at a protocol that could identify any foods that might be contributing to unstable blood sugars and the thyroid swelling. And also my daughter is getting married this summer, so that's very exciting for me. And I just don't want to miss anything. I want to be around for it all. I want to be here for future grandchildren. I want to be imparting things to them when they're teenagers and things like that. I just want the longevity. I want to be around for sort of everything that's going on with my family. And and also as a health coach, I want to walk the walk. I don't just want to talk about it. I want to try and live out the healthy things that I've discovered and keep discovering. As things are always evolving and new information is coming out. So there's a lot of reasons really that go into my why.
I knew you would have one of those strong whys. And what I want to talk about now is let's go back. You mentioned what you did, and you mentioned the health journey that you started. So you started with a Whole30. That's the way you started. But if you want to talk maybe to everyone about that journey, how you found Whole30 and what that Whole30, the results that maybe it yielded the first time you did it.
Yes. So I discovered Whole30 originally in 2018. It was somebody I was following on Instagram. I don't even remember her name. She wasn't a Whole30 coach, but she had thyroid issues, and she said that these had been mostly resolved by doing that elimination protocol, that Whole30 is famous for. And I thought, well, I'm going to do it. And I knew nothing really about the program. I googled it. In the UK, it was very little known at the time. Even now, it doesn't have the sort of widespread audience that it has in America. So I was just Googling things, really, looking up information online. So I printed out all the rules. I got to a point where I knew exactly what I was doing. I prepared myself, but I was very much on my own. I didn't have any support group, and it was really tough. And then on top of that, in the UK, especially then, it's a bit better now, but at that time, you just couldn't find, easy compatible foods. You really had to do most things from scratch. And although I haven't seen it with my own eyes, I hear that you can walk down a supermarket aisle in the States and you've got Whole30 approved foods, and obviously now they've even got a meal plan, and you just think, oh, that would be the dream, to have that kind of support. I got to about week 3 and I thought I desperately need some support. So then I started looking for online groups on Facebook, and that's where I found some Whole30 support groups, and they were really helpful. By the time you're on week 3, you often feel like having a bit of a rant, or you're so sick of what you're eating, and you reach out for recipes and just a bit of encouragement, help me not to give up. And so that's how I started getting involved in the Whole30 community in America. And that just mushroomed, really. I then found Debbie on Instagram quite soon afterwards, our friend Debbie Marlowe, and started following her. And then I found Fabs, which started early 2019. So that wasn't long after I'd done my first Whole30, and just became more and more part of that community. And then eventually found that there was actually a Whole30 group on Facebook for the UK. It's very small compared to the ones you have in the States. There's only about 1,000 people, but it's really helpful in terms of finding out what products are available. And as I said, things have got better. There are a lot more sort of shop bought mayonnaises and sauces in general, like barbecue sauce, ketchup, all those kinds of things that are compatible, and also a lot more meats that are compatible now, because I was really shocked when I first did Whole30 that they would put sugar in chicken slices or in smoked salmon. Well, pretty much everything, isn't it? You just think, why have they put sugar in there, or why have they added wheat and all sorts of, bogus additions that you just think, why isn't it just, the one ingredient, or, whole foods. So that was the start, 2018, and after I didn't do a reintroduction that first time. I think because I didn't really know, the importance. I didn't really know much about it. That came later in my journey, but I did feel so much better after that month, and the swelling in my thyroid had gone. And then I found that my blood sugar levels were stable. And I knew that was something that I wanted to keep going with. So then I bought quite a few of the books. It starts with food and food freedom, and some of the recipe books. And when we went, I think I did another one on my own. And then I thought, you know what, I need a coach. I need to be part of a group. I need to be coached. And I thought, if Debbie does a group, actually this was in lockdown by now. This was 2020. And of course, everybody was at home. I was at home, and I was following the Fabs. And I thought, if Debbie does a group, I'm going to do it. I'm going to jump in. And lo and behold, she did a group that summer. because at the time she didn't normally do summer groups, but again, because of lockdown, she thought she would do one. And that was where I met you and Suzanne as well and joined that group. And I must say, it was just the best group of my life. And I know people say it's life-changing, but it was life-changing for me on so many levels, not just for my health, and but also because out of that I became a coach myself. And I really had the time to dedicate it. I loved getting all the information first thing in the morning. And because of the time difference, we're 5 or 6 hours ahead. I loved that I'd get the information before anybody else in the group because they were all in the States, and I could jump into the chat and start with like a blank sheet and give my penny's worth, if you like. And I just had the time to read all the material, get really involved with, the chat in the community. And I just loved it. It was just the support that I needed. And they say there's no such thing as a perfect Whole30. That one was perfect. I did everything by the book, everything by the letter, and reaped the rewards for it in my health. Just felt, amazing. And it was after that one that my diabetic nurse said that my type 2 diabetes had gone into remission. So that was obviously a really big deal. And since then, I've really worked on keeping my blood sugar stable and keeping that in remission. And I still have to have annual checkups and things like that. But that was just really amazing. And it was about halfway through that course, I just thought, do you know what? I can see myself doing this. I can see myself coaching other women. And, the FABS group is for women over 50. And I think, I have a real heart for women of that age because you've got so many things coming against you. You've got, often hormonal imbalances. You've got, struggles with weight, although, we focus on health rather than weight. That is something that women often struggle with. And, and then all the menopause symptoms, that's the age where you often lose a parent, your children leave home, you've got the empty nest, so you've got all these sort of emotional things going on. And, you just often need the support of a community to be able to, take control of your health, to make progress with your health and to help yourself sleep better and sort out your hydration and sort out your nutrition and everything else. So I just thought, I really want to do this. I really want to help other people, the way it's helped me. So I was thinking about it, and then I think it was literally the next day, Debbie said, "Hey, have you thought about becoming the first Whole30 coach in the UK?" And I thought, oh, that would be exciting, wouldn't it, to be the first, to be a pioneer. And I think the fact that she said it as well sort of validated my thoughts about it, and I decided to, go ahead. And it was hard. I think the certification process was very hard, but I did it. Yeah, I've actually loved being a coach ever since. I really have.
Yeah, you were a natural from day one, and it's so cool for us to see someone go on that, was part of our group and become a person that passes along. Again, what you and I were talking about before we started this was the ripple effect. That's why I call my podcast this. That is the ripple effect, right? We hopefully helped you, and now we were able to help you help others, and now you're out there helping others, and you've done groups with us. And then I'm going to fill in a couple blanks for people. Just the Fabulous After 50, we have talked about on the podcast. Terry Riley was on the podcast. We did a lot of talking about the Fabulous After 50. So I'm going to link that group in the show notes again, and we're going to talk about it again real quick, because that is a group that I am telling you, there are like 12,000 members in that group. It started out as just about Whole30, but now it is evolved into so much more. So if you are a female that suffers from anything that Hazel was talking about, or just wants some fellow folks going through the same types of things that Hazel mentioned and just looking for support, that group is completely free. That group is completely free to join, and everyone pours their soul into it just out of the goodness of their heart. I mean, honestly, the coaches take time, that are moderators, they take time out of their day to do that. So I would taking my time. Debbie was involved in the creation of that, so we've talked about it on the podcast. So I'm just mentioning that again for those of you who may be listening for the first time. And then you stole my thunder about you being the first UK coach. I mean, here you are. You're working on your own health journey, right? You're in the UK. It's not easy. It is not easy. It wasn't as easy as it is now when Debbie and I did our first Whole30s, but it's a lot easier in general now to do things. So you're groundbreaking, Hazel. You're the first UK Whole30 coach, and it's a shame we don't have coaches anymore, but you're always going to have that title. You're always going to have been the first. But what I want to tell people about, I want them to understand you also, during your time with us, coined one of my favorite mantras that I've ever heard from a client. Can you, I don't want to steal your thunder. I want you to tell this story. I want you to explain to everyone your mantra and how you came up with that.
Okay, so my husband's stepmother has a flat in Switzerland, and it's just a beautiful location. It's overlooking a lake and it's surrounded by mountains, and we go there once or twice a year. And obviously we didn't know in lockdown if we were going to be able to go that year, but there was a small window where the borders opened up for us to go. And by then I was already really committed to this, to the group that I was just talking about. So I was in the middle of my Whole30 round, and then I was in reintroduction. I think I had the first couple of days of the journey, because we drove over, was day 29 and 30 of the Whole30. So I'd taken all these things on the journey with me. And then in Switzerland, I had reintroduction. And one of our favourite things is just having a leisurely coffee, together as a family. I think both my daughters were with us, so we'd go out. But this coffee, every single time, it would come with this tiny little damn biscuit. And I thought, and to begin with, I thought, oh, well, I can't eat it. But day after day, when it comes and you can't eat it, you end up getting really cross. So I did. And in the end, I said, I will not be bullied by this biscuit. And and just by saying that the power of it just sort of dissipated. But then once I was through my reintroduction, gosh, I enjoyed that little biscuit on the side of my coffee. But yeah, that was my way of asserting my power over this biscuit.
It's my favorite. It's my favorite. And I can't say it as good as you, because it's still everything sounds better with the accent, and you with the vehement, pronounced determination that you will not be bullied by that biscuit. So that's some of the things that you learn, though, when you're doing the Whole30, right? You learned that you do have the power over this. You're the boss. You're the CEO of your body. You're the boss. You're deciding what goes in this body or not, and then you'll decide afterward if it's worth it and that deserves a spot on your plate. Yes. So all that being said, I know that Whole30 itself has taught you a lot. So what is Whole30, you actually doing it and you actually coaching it? What are a couple of things that experience has taught you?
Well, I'm really glad that I've done the Whole30 myself at least 4 times in its entirety, because when my clients are struggling with cravings or with food boredom or carb flu, I know exactly how that feels, and I'm able to to help them and encourage them. And I just think if you haven't done it yourself, I mean, one of the requirements of becoming a coach was to have done it at least 3 times anyway. And it was only once I started coaching that I realised how important that was to have done it yourself. And I mean, even in food freedom, I'm working with a client at the moment in food freedom, and this is her 3rd time of working with me over a number of years. And again, I can just tap back into how it felt for me if I was craving something sweet and what I did about it. And I can just impart strategies that really worked for me.
Yeah, it's profound, right? Because most of us have cravings and it's mindless and we kind of just appease those cravings. I crave that biscuit, I'm just going to eat it. But we don't actually think about why. Why are we craving it? A lot of times cravings, you know, from IIN, that cravings are a sign from your body that something's awry. There's a nutrient deficiency, that it's physiological, it's psychological. It could be of many, many things. So again, we go back to always asking why. Be that curious child who, no matter what's going on with your health, you have the right to say, why? Why is this happening? And kind of just stop and have that mindfulness pause, like you did when the biscuit was there. And you have that mindfulness pause and you say, well, I'm looking at that biscuit and I am not, I'm not going to be bullied by that biscuit. So it is very empowering. And then I think Whole30 is one thing, and then becoming a health coach, it leads you to even more profound discoveries. So Hazel and I are like Debbie. We came from the Institute Integrative Nutrition, IIN it's what it's called, and that's the program that we did. And I wondered if you had any profound discoveries that you can remember that maybe during your time doing your modules and getting your certification, were there any things that stood out to you that felt like a wow or an aha moment that, oh, I've never looked at things like that or thought about things like that?
I think the main thing was just how expansive it was, how many things actually contribute to you being healthy. There was subjects in there that I thought, oh, I didn't realize that was about health, and that, and well, obviously in the circle of life, that was really amazing, where you're looking at your relationships, your sleep, you're looking at all different sort of aspects of your life, your movement, and, you can see where things are out of balance, because, there are some things we do well and some things we need to work on. And I was just in awe of how many topics there were covered in that study. In fact, there's so much I want to go over it again. I want to go through the program again in my own time.
Yeah, I do too, because they've added to it. They've added to it and they've changed things. And I can't remember if they had changed the curriculum. I think they changed it after you were done too. I don't think you got the full brand new curriculum. So it's nice that they do give us some access to that. And I think you touched on it a little bit. And I think the most profound thing for me was there was a couple of things in my own personal coaching that I obviously learned. I always say you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so spend more time listening than talking, which doesn't always happen when you're doing a podcast, but we try. I try to make sure my guests are getting most of the time on the podcast. But the other thing is that primary food, most of our audience would think primary food is the food on your plate, but it's not. And it's what Hazel referred to, that circle of life. I have a client that I'm working with now, and he was kind of like, well, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? Well, this is part of health here. We want to see this. So the circle, you fill in the circle, and the circle's never perfectly round. It's never perfectly round, but it helps you check and balance kind of where you're putting your focus and if you need to shift your focus. So it's a nice, honest way to look at it. And I think it's such a simple tool that we use with our clients. And I think that, it's effective. So we love being IIN coaches. And I know that, Hazel, you're always personally evolving as we're talking here too. We know we all do that. You're always personally evolving. So talk about like where I always said that the name of this podcast could be Rabbit Hole, because it's like everyone goes down their rabbit holes. And we've all got them. I've got rabbit holes every day. I feel like I go down. So what have you been focusing on and working on lately?
Well, the last few months, I realized that I needed more strength. I'm 61 now, and I think as we start getting older, our joints can be a bit creaky. So I noticed my hips were a bit stiff, and I was walking every day for at least an hour with the dog, and thinking that was enough. That was good exercise, but it wasn't, because there are a lot of muscles that were getting missed out. And there's a fantastic program in the UK at the moment. So I'm going to just give them a little plug, see if anyone's listening from the UK, because it's free for 6 months. And it's a gym called Nuffield, and they have a joint pain program. For 12 weeks, you have a trainer with a group of you twice a week. And then 12 weeks subsequently, it's just you and your group, and then you join the gym after that if you want to. So I've had my 12 weeks with the trainer, and I'm now, I think, about a month into just being with the group. But what's been amazing, when I think back over the years that I've been in and out of gyms, but didn't really know what my goals were and what I was, doing exactly. This has been very focused on strength, on mobility and balance, which are really key areas when you're going in, you're getting a bit older. And I lost my dad last summer, and he was not very mobile towards the end, and it just sort of focuses your mind, doesn't it? You think, I don't want to be like that in 20 years time. I need to do something now. So just, the squats and the lunges, using weights machines in the gym, standing on one leg. When I stood on one leg the first time, I was wobbling all over the place. I had to hold on to something. I couldn't do it. And now I can just stand on one leg for ages. I always call it channeling my inner flamingo. And it's funny how just thinking you're a flamingo actually helps you balance as well. So yeah, I'm quite evangelical about it. I must say, I sort of tell everybody locally about it, and it's been really helpful. And the accountability as well. What I've discovered, because we're on a WhatsApp group, if there's a morning I wake up and I don't feel like going, I get on the WhatsApp group and I say, hey, I'll see you later. Because then it's accountability. I've said I'm going. I've said I'm going to see them. And it makes me turn up even if I don't feel like it.
I love it. I love all of that. And look, as a trainer, I would tell you 100%, these are the things you should be doing. If you go back to I did an episode, I think it was episode 10 with my friend Ryan, and Ryan's a personal trainer also. And that's what we talked about is like, if you're on your own doing these things, you do sometimes need guidance. Like, I'm not trying to be an infomercial for a trainer, but what we can do is help you establish realistic goals and understand that you need to work toward these goals, and that if you're a runner, the goal is not just to run. You have to do certain things to be able to run. So it is profound, and you are hitting the right notes. And for everybody, it's different. Every single person has an imbalance in their body, and you need to work on those imbalances. If you sit at a desk all day and work, we need to stretch what's tight and we need to strengthen what's weak so that we offset what you're doing repetitively day after day. So I think that all of that is awesome, Hazel, and I'm not surprised that you've got that direction. And we'll link that in the show notes in case you share this with some of your UK friends and they see that in the notes. We will definitely link and share that. Are there areas of health that you haven't delved into yet that you're looking to maybe go down your own little rabbit hole about? Are there areas that you like, I still want to know more about this? Like, what are you looking to know more about?
So I have dipped in and out of the Glucose Goddess book. And, one of the principles that, many of us know about is eating your vegetables first and then your protein, fat and carbs last. So that is something that I do some of the time, but not all the time. And that is something that I want to focus on a lot more. I want to actually go through the book like a study book and highlight things and really get into that a lot more and look into some of the recipes that she has. And I see she's got an anti-spike formula out as well, which is interesting.
Well, it's just good and bad. It's good and bad because I have that fear of like, okay, this doesn't mean we can just a free pass to eat whatever, you want. So it's good and bad. It's good and bad, but she's doing wonderful things. What else are you looking forward to with looking into that?
Yeah, just continuing to keep my blood sugar stable and, to keep diabetes in remission. And I think also just to be able to the ripple effect, pass on tips to other people, because there are some just simple hacks. Often when you try and get, friends or family to, overhaul their diet or to do an elimination protocol, it's just too much for them. They can't, imagine doing it. They can't see themselves doing it. Whereas if you give them a little tip that isn't too difficult, maybe they can do that. Maybe they can tweak something about their health. And my siblings, both my brothers and sister, they all struggle with arthritis, and so there are like little exercises that I can share with them now from going to the gym.
Yeah, movement is medicine, especially when you're suffering from things like that. Like the instinct is like, oh, it hurts, I don't want to move it. But really, at the end of the day, the movement is what's going to help it. That's how you get blood flow. That's how things heal. So it seems counterintuitive, but when you learn that the way to do this is to move this and move this in the proper way, it's enlightening, and you can overcome it. You can overcome it. It's not necessarily need to be accepted as part of aging. You can do something about it. I want to know a sense of what the focus is in the UK when it comes to health. Like what issues is the UK dealing with that you hear maybe in the news or you see? Like what does health look like in the UK?
Well, I heard yesterday that cardiovascular issues are like at a 14-year high. So there are a lot of people experiencing, heart problems or blocked arteries. So yeah, that's a biggie at the moment, really.
Yeah, and then that's a rabbit hole I've gone down. That's my latest rabbit hole. When I get up on my pulpit and start preaching, because I do think there are some things that can be done to help mitigate some of these being so sudden and unexpected, and proper testing that people can go through in order to detect these things earlier than we are, and having a tragic event happen. So there's always hope with that. What is it like to currently, what are some foods that you wish you had in the UK that we have over here?
I mean, the thing that jumped into my mind when you said that was, I think you have a lot of compatible sausages and sausage meat, don't you? Whereas we don't have any in the supermarkets here, as far as I know. You have to go to, a specialist butcher, and they're few and far between. So that's something that that comes to mind. You
don't have that logo. You don't have that Whole30 approved logo at all. No.
So
what else?
That would be amazing to have that, to just be able to go into a big supermarket and pick things up and not have to worry about it. I mean, it takes less time now, but I remember the first Whole30 I did. Took me like an hour to go around the supermarket because I had to read all the labels, and so what I started doing was then having go-to products, so I'm not like having to look all the time. There are things that I use repeatedly, so I know they're Whole30 compatible. And actually, when I was doing my certification, I compiled a directory for the UK, for anyone doing Whole30 in the UK. Went through all the supermarkets and found foods that were compatible, and actually asked the Facebook group in the UK to help me, for them to flag up products that they discovered. So that was really good. That was a collaborative effort, and I think they enjoyed doing that. It's like a project.
What a wonderful idea and project. I mean, that's a great thing to do. So I know you're breaking ground and always trying to do so much to help others. And I know one of those things that you are trying, I know you're working on this blueprint course with Debbie. So
yes.
If you want, take a minute to talk about that and what that's about. And, eventually when it's ready, we're going to have, we'll link it for people. But in the interim, just so everyone knows, you can be in our free health network called Empowered Health. And
yes,
then the courses are in Empowered Health. So this course blueprint, talk about that a little bit.
Yes, we're very excited about this. This is part of us going beyond Whole30, because as many people know now, the Whole30 coaching program was dissolved a few months ago, and that was one of the reasons that I then expanded my coaching and spent a year with IIN, becoming a holistic health coach. And so Blueprint is that kind of idea where we're not just looking at nutrition, we're also looking at movement, sleep, hydration, starting your morning with a big savoury breakfast. Just lots of different topics. Your morning routine, your evening routine, all the things that set you up for success in your healthy lifestyle. A big sort of range of pillars of health. And it will be a 21-day program, so there'll be 21 topics that we cover. There'll be a different one every day, and there'll be lots of lives where we hop in and do Q&A, or just have a little chat. Whoever's around can join us, so it'll be very interactive as well.
I love it, and I know it'll be top notch with you and Debbie. So the last thing before we go is I want you in general to let people know how they can reach out and connect to you, because anybody who's listening should know, whether you're in the UK or not, Hazel can help you. So let's let people know how they can connect with you.
So I think the best way is on my Instagram account, and that is at Whole Hazel. And obviously also Empowered. If anyone wants to come into the network, that's completely free. They can find me there, and Debbie. So yeah, I'd say Instagram is probably the best one, and that's where I post my coaching hacks and information and personal experience as well.
Awesome. Well, Hazel, I know you're going to come back soon, but I'm really excited that you made this debut, and I thank you for making time for everyone and for coming on and sharing your story.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. It's been a real honour. I look forward to seeing you soon.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Ripple Effect Connection. I'm always up for your feedback. I love the conversations about the podcast topics on social media, so feel free to continue to connect and let me know what resonated with you. Reach out on Instagram at WholeHealthChristy. You can also get the full show notes for this and all episodes on my website, christyhugic.com/podcast. Next, spread the inspiration. Like, follow, review, and share this podcast with others who may benefit from these stories. Stay tuned for the next episode of Ripple Effect Connection. Let's create waves of change together.